how would you like to reinvent yourself this year? Got any ideas? This reinventing yourself sounds like this dazzling idea. I don't know anyone who doesn't really want to reinvent themselves, but what does it really mean and what does it really take? Well, I can say for one thing, it takes getting out of your comfort zone. In order to reinvent yourself, it's like you're coming at life from a whole new angle, from a different place and being a different person. So most people, as much as they really like that idea of doing it, when it comes down to it, it's actually something that's a little scary, or it feels like really hard work and getting out of your comfort zone and getting into the unfamiliar, which it absolutely is. So how do you get over that? How do you get into that zone of reinventing yourself? Now, before I get into this, if you find yourself liking this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, I really highly suggest you click that subscribe button and the bell so you'll be notified when I put new videos out. So I think I can really sum this up by telling you a story, something that I just did recently with my son. We watched the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. It was my son's idea. He is 13 and he was like, hey, I've heard of this movie. I would like to watch it. He likes watching older movies like from the 90s, which is great for me because that's, some of my formative years were in the 90s and I was very much into movies. So before I get into this though, there will be spoiler alerts, but if you haven't watched Groundhog Day by now, I would say chances are you're probably not going to, so it's probably okay to proceed. So Groundhog Day is a comedy and it's about a man who keeps reliving the same day over and over. He is a weather newscaster. He goes out to this little town because this little town has this tradition with the groundhog. The groundhog's supposed to step out of its burrow. If it sees its shadow, there's 6 more weeks of winter. If it doesn't see its shadow, then it's going to be spring much sooner. And so he doesn't like the town, this guy who goes out to it, the Bill Murray character. And he's kind of a sour guy. He's not real happy with his life. He wants to move on. He wants to get a new opportunity and move to a bigger station. And he just wants to get out of that town. As soon as he gets his work done, he just wants to get out of there. And then he gets stuck. And then the next morning he wakes up and it's the same day all over again. And not only is it that one time, but it happens every single time. Well, while I was watching this, I realized that this is an incredible metaphor for life. And it was a great story device to sort of reflect on what our actual life is like and what does it really mean to reinvent yourself. Now, actually, for most of us, we actually do feel like we're living the same day over and over again because we have all these routines and we get up in the morning at about the same time, we go to work. And even if it's the weekend, which might be different than your 5 days a week, it's still the same routine every single weekend. Maybe you sleep a little bit later, but not that much else is different. You wear basically the same clothes. You eat round about the same food, the same meals. Maybe not every single day, but if you look at really what your diet is, it's probably fits, what it was the previous week and the week before that and the week before that. And we do this on purpose. We create so much familiarity in our lives. And we're following these patterns, we're following these routines so much because this gives us stability. This gives us continuity. We need that. We need a certain level of that. We need this to a certain degree to feel okay. But if we do this a lot and we don't ever step outside of that, it does start to feel boring. It does start to feel like we're in a cage. It feels like a prison. It feels like we're sort of living the same day over and over and over again. And at the same time, we're unwilling to break from that continuity. We're unwilling to break from that routine because we get a certain feeling of security and stability and certainty from those routines. So it's kind of a catch-22. And how much is enough to make us feel okay, but then how do we keep it adventurous? How do we keep reinventing ourselves? How do we keep challenging ourselves and changing ourselves just enough to make life really interesting and fulfilling? So a little more about the movie. As he keeps repeating the day over and over again, he kind of gets this idea of, well, maybe I'll do some things differently than what I've done before. And accidentally, he has this sort of perfect day with this woman, one of his coworkers. And it's sort of by accident. He's trying some things out, but he has that perfect day. And then he wakes up the next morning and it's the same day, starting from all over again. Well, he wants to replicate that perfect day. So he tries to sort of do all the same things he did before so that he can create that perfect day again. And it keeps falling flat. In fact, it becomes more manufactured. He's basically acting like himself, but in a previous self. And he's sort of trying to sort of force these things and make these things happen. And it starts going very badly for him. The woman starts to feel like it does feel sort of like he's acting, and it feels like he's sort of creating these scenarios. And then one time after another, one day after another that he keeps reliving, she wants nothing to do with him, and he feels like he's completely failed at this. The next part of it is he gives up. He is so bored with living out the same day over and over again that he actually tries to kill himself. Well, in the day, he does in fact die, but the next morning he wakes up again. He's reliving it all over again. So he can't even die. Like, this thing is, he realizes this is just how it is. So even after he's completely given up, he realizes that he's still going to have to keep living this day. And he comes to an epiphany. Well, if I'm going to have to keep reliving this day, I might as well start developing some skills, some abilities. I might as well start evolving myself. So he starts taking a piano lesson every single day that he relives, and to the point where he gets really good at piano. He starts doing ice carvings until he gets really, really good at it, because he keeps reliving the same day. If you do this for enough days, you get good at it. He starts speaking French. So there's like all these things he starts cultivating, all these abilities and skills he starts cultivating. And as he's doing this, it's attracting the attention of this woman that he's interested in. It's also attracting the attention of other people. And that's another thing that he starts learning how to do. He starts learning how to connect with people. He had never done that before. He didn't really like people before. But now, because he's stuck having the same day over and over again, he decides, well, I'm going to start opening up to people. I'm going to start being nice to people. I'm going to start connecting with them, getting to know them, getting to understand them better. And it really enriches him and it transforms him. So instead of him trying to sort of manipulate situations because he knows what's going to happen, because it's the same thing every single day, he starts allowing it to transform him. And he starts allowing it to sort of reinvent him. So it's not just him doing it to him. He's taking what's happening and getting to know the situation, getting to know the people, getting to connect with them, and allowing that to sort of create a transformational process for him. And this is so much of what our lives are like. We are living, in a sense, the same day in and day out, and we're putting things off until this other time, until we have enough money, until we have like a happy life. But it's like, no, this is it. And maybe it does seem boring and mundane, but just like in Groundhog Day, you can start right now doing something. It doesn't have to be big. Doing something, though, small, and doing it every single day. Whenever I started learning Romanian, it was like that. It's like, okay, this is going to be huge. I had this idea that I was going to be able to speak it within the first year that I was studying it and learning it, but now I realize, no, that's out of the question. But a little bit each day, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Sometimes I've gone up to 3 hours. But if I do this every single day and I'm consistent about it, in 2 or 3 years, I'm going to be speaking it very well. When I got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it was the same thing. When I first got on the mat, you have these black belts who have been there for 10, 15, sometimes 20 years. You're like, oh my man, I'm so far behind on this. But you do a little bit each day. You do a little bit each day, and you start to get better and better at it until a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, you are reinvented. You are transformed. You can do something. You've cultivated something that you did not have before. And what else are you going to do at this time? Sort of like Groundhog Day, you're here, and the sun is going to rise and the sun is going to set, and this is going to happen over and over and over. So where do you want to be in a few years from now? What do you want to cultivate? The time is going to pass anyway. So when you think things like the things are going to be too hard, too difficult to try, too difficult to build a business, a new career, some sort of physical skill, or some sort of writing, making videos, making movies, whatever it is, when you start now and you do it consistently, you will build something, you will create something. I think when people think about reinventing themselves, they think about, oh, tomorrow, the next day, I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to be a whole brand new person. That's just not how it works. Reinventing yourself is making a decision now to do something different, to be consistent about it, and then see where that takes you over a long period of time. Doesn't mean that you absolutely have to stick to that thing that you decided to try doing. But when you decide to finally take some sort of action, that action will lead to something else. And then that action will lead to something else. And maybe you find, whatever that first thing was that you decided, that was the sort of the catalyst. That was the trigger that got you, several steps ahead. But if you hadn't have taken that first step, you would have never gotten there. But so many of us think, well, what's the point? Or, at this age, I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at 40. I knew I was not going to be a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion. That wasn't the idea. The idea was, well, it was something I wanted to do. And then I thought, yeah, later down the line, I will cultivate this ability that I didn't have before. And it will change me as a person. I will learn something about myself. But maybe if I had started jiu-jitsu and I didn't, maybe I liked it for a few months and then I decided to quit, maybe that would have gotten me into something else. And so you never know where the journey takes you, but it takes deciding something right now, and it takes taking some sort of action and consistency and being consistent about it. So when you think about reinventing yourself, take the time part out of it, okay? Because you're going to, like I said, it's going to be the same thing day in and day out. You're going to be doing basically the same thing unless you decide to do something different. So when you think about building that business, when you think about saving money, when you think about anything that seems like it's too difficult or it's going to take too long, what else are you going to do with the rest of your life? But something new, something different. So reinventing yourself may take a period of months. It may take a period of years. It may take decades. But get started now, because like I said, what else are you going to do? And the main thing to remember is that you don't have to have all the answers right now. I think that's what most people are waiting for. They're waiting to have all the answers. They're waiting to have enough money. You're waiting to, when all the pieces are right or everything's right, the economy is in the right place. We're waiting until everything is right, or I have every problem solved in my head, or have every problem solved on paper first, and it's just never going to happen. And if that's always what you're saying to yourself, you will never get started doing anything. Right now is always the time to get started. So what can you do right now? And it doesn't have to be a lot of things, just one thing. Make a choice, make a decision. You are going to do what? And then get started. So if you're ready to take the next step in reinventing yourself, I have a 3-part video series, and I don't know how much longer we're going to keep it around. We decided to keep it out there for a little bit longer because it has been very popular. So in order to learn how to really create a vision for yourself and take that next step, there is a link right down here in the description. Click that link and you will get access to this 3-part video series on how to reinvent yourself. Make sure you jump on this now. If you're watching this video much later, that link might not be there anymore, but still check the description right down here below. We'll put something else in its place until we bring the video series back. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do that. Click the subscribe button right here, click the bell, so you'll be notified when I put new videos out, which tends to be every Wednesday and every Saturday. And last but not least, if you can think of a friend or a family member who would benefit from watching this video, make sure you share it with them. Take care.